Light Sports Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. It is snowing in Pennsylvania. Evan, I know you got hit with a hard snowstorm out in Wisconsin. I am Troy Otradovic, as always, joined with Evan Witallison. Today is Twitter Talk, Evan. But as always, I'm getting what you guys got yesterday. Why do you keep sending it my way? I don't need any more snow. Why do you keep sending it to me?
We get tired of it and send it that way, and I could definitely know the feeling when you say we don't need any more snow. We got quite a few on the ground here, and over. It wasn't that we got a big storm last night, but overnight, we got probably close to 6 inches and another 2 inches during the day. So the morning commute today, it was not a fun drive today. I almost got stuck a couple times driving for work. So, but you guys out in Pittsburgh. Have fun with that.
Yeah, well, I know you like me and you like giving me stuff. You don't have to give me the snow. I don't want the snow.
Aw, why not? I thought you liked snow.
No, my district manager made me have a 2-hour delay today. And I'm like, whatever, I'll be at the school at 7:30. If I drive the farthest of any one of my staff members. I drive over an hour, 41 miles one way to come to work. If I can make it at 7:30, sure as hell everybody else can make it in. But no, she made me do a 2-hour delay.
And what did you have, like a dusting of snow on the ground, so they had to do a 2-hour delay?
Oh, we got 2 inches. 2 inches with ice. Oh my God, drive slow. Just drive slow. Yeah, it took me a little longer to get to.
We still had about 2 inches of snow. We had about 2 inches of snow, probably about 2 to 3 inches of snow on the road still this morning. Like, they hadn't even plowed yet, and I still had to drive to work.
Yeah, 2-3 inches of snow.
We didn't get a 2-hour delay.
You guys have 2 to 3 inches of snow in June out there, so that's nothing. but with that,
not quite that bad here. Now, where a friend of mine lives, she lives up in Marquette, Michigan. Now, she still has about 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground come too.
Yeah, my half sister.
I was up there in June. I was up there this past June. It was still freezing up there.
Yeah, my half sister lives up in Gwinn, Michigan, so I've been up there many a times. They get pounded up there. That UP really gets a lot of snow.
They do.
But with that said, bud, it is Wednesday, which is our traditional Twitter talk. Got a couple of great topics today, and I'll tell you what, the Twitter talk show, Evan, you'll agree with me, is really starting to get fan interactive. We had some good topics.
My family's even interacted like last week. So.
Yeah, your brother threw it out. He didn't throw out a topic this week, though. But Ben, one of our loyal listeners.
Well, I didn't get a chance to tweet out much today about it because he saw me tweet it out last week, and that's probably why he put the question out there. So.
Well, we have our loyal listener Ben, and he keeps telling me he's going to call in. So one of these days, we'll wait for Ben to get on the line. But until then, he had posted a great question. Nick Collins had tweeted out that he was maybe thinking of coming back into the NFL, and Ben wanted to know what we thought about the Packers re-signing Nick Collins. So let's start off with that topic, and let's talk a little bit about Nick Collins, because I brought him up a lot, Evan, in the Packer recaps and in the offseason, that we have not had a safety like Nick Collins. Because Nick Collins was a Pro Bowl safety that really made a difference in the back. So let's start there. What are your thoughts on his tweets and on his return to the NFL? What do you think?
Well, when I heard what he had said, that he's ready to return and he's ready to dominate, that got me very giddy. I'm like, ooh, because I love Nick Collins. I was a big fan of his when he was in Green Bay. Still a fan of his now, even though he's not playing currently. So the fan in me, I got really, really, really excited. I'm like, ooh, Packers need to bring him back. But then the logical side of me started thinking, he hasn't played in 2 years. And then, then you got to thinking, would the Packers doctors clear him to play? Like, would he pass the physical at Green Bay? Would Green Bay pass it? Like, clear him to play? Would they sign him if he did pass everything? And then, how much money is he going to be asking for? Is he going to be wanting what he was getting paid when he got hurt, or would he be willing to sign for a little bit less money to prove to everybody that, hey, I can still do this? But if Nick Collins can pass his physical with Green Bay, if he's going to come to Green Bay with an affordable price tag, and he doesn't show a ton of rust, then by all means, I would love me some Nick Collins back in Green Bay. Because as you said, we haven't had a safety like Nick Collins since Nick Collins got hurt, and Morgan Burnett's been a huge disaster, as has M.D. Jennings and McMillan. They've all been disasters. So it'd be very awesome to get him back if he's healthy.
Well, I agree. We all thought when Nick Collins retired, with that neck injury, that he was done, and that was going to be it. And I know you brought up something really important. The Packers doctors were not ready to clear him. He made his decision to retire, but now he has had some time to heal. And so maybe it is healed to the point where the risk is always going to be there. The risk to re-injure is always going to be there. But if it is healed enough for him to be able to step on the football field and play, then, that is his choice at that point. If the doctors say it looks good and give him what may happen, like, hey, you get hit again, you could get paralyzed, or whatever that diagnosis is, that will be on him, because at that point, the doctor, they have to look at it from the standpoint of, is he healthy enough to play? And if he is, then he's got to deal with the risks of what could happen should he re-injure himself. But I guess my question, Evan...
Yeah, but those risks are always there, though.
Oh, yeah, they always are. I mean, is he at a higher risk? Maybe. I mean, we don't know. We don't know much about the injury other than that Nick Collins feels ready to play. So you and I both know, though, there is a big difference between a player saying he's ready to play and a doctor clearing him to play. You and I were both athletes. There were times where you were hurt and you wanted to play, but the doctor probably said, don't play. I don't know. I had that, and I kind of shunned him, and I'll share a little bit of a personal story. I dislocated my shoulder 7 times. I have 2 pins in it. And when I did it the first time, I went, and that is the most painful injury. And after the 3rd time, I went to the doctor, and he said, you have to have surgery. And I'd already redshirted in college. And I was not going to be able to miss half a season and get it back eligibility-wise. So I looked at the doctor, and he said, you need surgery. And I said, when? He's like, in a week. I said, how much more damage can I do to my shoulder? He's like, none. I said, well, then we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to play. And cortisone shots, I wrapped my arm up to my chest. Evan, I was playing half a soccer season with one arm. And that is very difficult, but I wanted to play. And I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have had the surgery, but I was young, stupid. I couldn't do any more damage to the arm, and I played. But again, my point is, an athlete thinks he can play. The doctor may think it's not a good idea and may not clear him. So what do you think, though, about, do you think there will be any bit of resentment from Nick Collins that the Packers wouldn't clear him? Do you think he's even going to look at the Packers, or do you think he may go somewhere else? Let's throw the money out of it right now. Let's talk about the personal way that this happened. Doctors didn't clear him. He retired. Do you think he's still, and I mean, I know we'd be speaking for him, but what does your gut tell you? Because your gut feeling is usually right on, Evan. What does your gut tell you about the relationship between Nick Collins and Green Bay?
I think the relationship's still good. Because it's not like he left on bad terms, and it's not, the Packers were open and honest with him. Their doctors weren't going to clear him. And the way it sounds is nobody's cleared him yet, really. Because the thing is, the Packers doctors wouldn't clear him why wouldn't any other team, why wouldn't any other teams, take a look at him to see what was going on? So to me, that raises flags. Like if no other team's willing to take a flyer on him after the Packers decided to release him because they weren't going to clear him, why isn't anybody else taking a flyer on him? Why isn't anybody else, I guess, kicking the tires per se? But and I don't know exactly when Nick Collins' injury was. I know he had fusion surgery to fuse the vertebrae back together, and it was a similar surgery that Sean Richardson had. So I'd be curious to see why Sean Richardson was able to come back and play when Nick Collins couldn't. So that would interest me to see why. But I don't think there'd be any resentment there because sometimes, and it was said during the whole thing with Rodgers, Rodgers said it best. Sometimes the doctors have to, help them from themselves. Because as an athlete, what you brought up, we always want to play. Fortunately, I never suffered any major injury. I had an issue early in high school with my neck giving me some problems. It was nothing overly serious. And then, I had severely sprained my ankle my senior year with, 3 games remaining in the season. And, I did the stupid thing of not telling anybody. So, I was, ace bandage on my ankle. I had a ankle brace on my ankle, and I was out there playing, and yeah, that was extremely painful. But to go back to your original question, I don't think there'd be any resentment.
So now let's go to the money then. What do you think Nick Collins is gonna warrant on an open market if he's cleared to play? Do you think he's going to get a big bite and a big contract? Or do you think he's going to have to take one of those contracts, like you said, that, hey, we're going to give you the league minimum, and when you prove that you are healthy enough and at the same level, then we'll talk about a long-term deal. So it's kind of a two-part question for you, Evan. Do you think anybody's going to offer him a long-term deal? And what about the money part? And again, this is nothing more than you and I talking, because we have no idea what will happen. But again, what do you think, and what are some of the possibilities? Do you think somebody will take a long-term deal on him, or is it going to be a one-year league minimum deal?
I don't. It's just too hard to say. If he's looking for what he was making prior to the injury, then he's in for a rude awakening. But I think most of the teams are going to be looking at more or less the 1 to 2 year contract at maybe a little bit above, the league minimum in order to come in and show that he is healthy enough, in fact, to play and that he can make a team. And I'm quite sure that there's going to be little to no, and there's going to be a lot of incentives in it, and there's going to be really no cap hit if, let's say, he were to get cut after training camp. So I think it would be the league low, would be a little over the league low, but I think there'd be very little risk involved.
Yeah, and I'm on board with you. I think Nick Collins would probably prefer, and his agent would probably prefer, a long-term deal, a 4 or 5 year contract. But I don't see any teams doing that with a guy that was injured. And we're not just talking a knee injury or a shoulder. We're talking a neck injury that forced a retirement, did not allow him to be cleared at the time. And so I believe what I think it's going to be a 1 year deal. That's just my thought. And I believe, like you said, it's going to be league minimum to maybe a little bit over. And he's going to have to prove his worth. So I know he's ready to come dominate according to Twitter and all those things. And I follow Nick Collins on Twitter. And to go back a little bit, I'd ask you the question about his relationship. He is still very much involved with the Packer fan base. I know that he tweets out. I know Packer fans still support him. I've supported him. So I think he has a good relationship with Green Bay. But I think he's going to have to swallow the pride. And I'll comment on what you said. If he expects to sign a contract for what he was making when he retired, that's crazy talk. That is crazy. He's not going to get that. He might as well stay retired, because I don't see anybody.
The crazy lady nuts.
Dude, if you get knocked out, I'll know why. Crazy talk. You hear that? I just knocked on my desk. I knocked on the wood that she lets us alone for the next 15 minutes. But I really believe it's going to be a short-term deal. Like you said, low risk, so that if he gets injured or they have to cut him, that a lot of it's not going to be guaranteed. Maybe very little signing bonus he may have to accept. But then to wrap this whole conversation up, I would love to see Nick Collins back in the green and gold. I think that would be a huge place for him to be in that secondary. And my last question to you, Evan, is do you think that watching the play of the safeties last year helped Nick Collins think about coming back? Do you think he sat on the couch and watched the safeties play and say, you know what? I can play at that level or better than what they have on the field right now. Do you think that might have came into play at all?
I think so. I think that had a lot to do with it. He might have saw how they were doing and like, wow, I can play much better than this that I haven't played in 2 years. That might have had something to do with it, but I think it also had to do with, when you play, I can only speak from the football perspective. When you're away from the game, you start getting that itch. When I stopped playing football, I never played above, junior college level. But when I stopped playing football, that next year after, that itch was there, and that itch wasn't, it was there hardcore. I had a hard time staying away, when I realized I was done playing. So that itch might just be back. He's like, because he was robbed. He's pretty much been robbed of the prime of his career, and I think he wants that prime back.
I think you bring up another good point there, and personally, I haven't played competitive soccer in 8 years, and I still have the itch, Evan. I still have the itch every time I go by a field, and I've been out of coaching now for 6 years, and I still get the itch to coach. I don't think it ever goes away. Every time I go by a soccer field and I'm watching people play, especially the older people like myself, I want to get back on the field and play. Then I think to myself, well, then I got to get back in shape. Then that kind of stops me at that point because I don't feel like training again. But the coaching is there too. So I agree with your point. He probably has this itch. He's watching games on Sunday. He feels healthy. He's probably been working out, probably been seeing the average safety play in the NFL. I'm not just talking the Green Bay Packers. I'm talking the average play in the NFL. And he's probably looking at himself going, where I'm at now, I know I can be just as good as those average players, if not better. So let's give this a go again. But again, I would love to see him in Green Bay. So we had the other topic we have for tonight, Evan, comes from another loyal listener. It's Mark, our buddy Mark. And it's kind of a two-part question. And I liked the first part because I've been watching Twitter and all the reporters that have went over to start covering the Olympics, and hotels are not done, and all of these things that they're talking about that aren't completed yet. He wanted to know if we feel that the Olympics are a safe venue right now. So I'm going to leave that in your court right now, Evan. What do you think about the safety issues at the Olympics, and is it safe to send our athletes over to Russia for the Olympics?
Well, I guess it would depend on what you mean exactly by safe. Now, is he talking about like from a potential terrorist attack or something in those nature? Yeah, I think it's completely safe. I think that the Russian government and the Russian army have it to a point that I don't think our athletes have to worry too much about their safety in that regard. But I guess I would be a little concerned in regards to venues possibly not being ready and stuff like that. Then I'll be a little concerned with safety in that regard. Like I said, it depends exactly on what he meant by are the athletes safe.
Yeah, we might have to.
I think they're safe either way, but I think there's a little more risk if facilities aren't done.
Yeah, I mean, well, we might have to continue that one on Twitter. It was just put out that way, about the safety. And, my 2 cents there is I was watching the Today Show the other day, and they were showing how they've sealed the manholes, they've caulked them, glued them so nobody can get in those manholes. I think they're taking the right precautionary measures. God forbid a tragedy happen. We've been through a lot with 9/11, the Boston Marathon, those type of attacks. I mean, it is a worldwide venue. You never know how crazy people are thinking. We would hope that the Olympics would be the point to come together, to have that, so-called world peace and have some good competitive nature, the games going on. But you never know in today's world. But from what I've seen on reports, I think they are doing the right things to try and make it as safe as possible. But I don't care how safe you make a venue. If somebody wants to get that done, they're going to get it done. I mean, it is a horrid thing that would happen if anything of that nature would go on. But you and I can probably both agree that if somebody wants to do that, they will figure out a way to get it done. And like you, I think
Yeah, but do you really think...
No, go ahead. I was going to touch on your venues.
I was going to say, do you really think... I was going to say, do you really think anyone's crazy enough to mess with Vladimir Putin? No, that dude crazy. You want to talk about crazy? That dude's crazy.
Well, you just don't know how some of these people think. That would be crazy. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. But where I go with that, too, though, is I have to say I agree with your point about the venues not being completed. And where my concern comes in there is if venues and hotels are not completely constructed, that opens up a lot of traffic. And what I mean by traffic is contractors coming in, construction workers coming in, not saying very easy to blend in. I'm sure they've got very high security to be able to get behind certain points. But with so much traffic going on, you could miss someone. And somebody could possibly gain entrance into a venue, into a hotel, and that would not be good. So I'm kind of on the same page there with you that I think overall, I think the safety has been put in place, and I think we'll be okay there. But there could be some concern about these venues not being completed and how much traffic is going in and out of these venues, and would anybody, I guess, get lost in the shuffle? And that would be my only concern. So, but with that said, we'll have to touch with Mark and see exactly what he meant on safety. I think safety of the games, I think it's an athletic event, and I think the safety for athletes in the venue's okay. But the last part of his question is too, and I'll give you my take that I gave in the pre-show, is he wanted to know what are our must-watch events. And I have to be totally honest, and I was honest with Mark on Twitter. I have not followed the Olympics probably as closely as I should have over the past couple Olympics. I haven't really sat down and said it's a must-watch. So I don't have anything where I have my DVR set that I'm going to say I have to tape this and watch this, except for one event this year in the Winter Olympics. But before I get to mine, do you have any events, Evan, that you are going to say are a must-see this winter?
Well, for me, I always, I more prefer in the Olympics the women's hockey more so than the men's hockey, because the women's hockey, they're competing for the gold in women's hockey. The women's hockey team is always very good, and there's a lot of people from Wisconsin, not only from Wisconsin, but also from around my hometown on Team USA. Like the goalie, she's from Monona Grove, which is pretty much, being from the city of Madison. So I have a lot of attention on there to see how, the women's hockey team do. Hopefully they can win the gold this year and not settle for the silver like last year. You were talking about this pre-show about the bobsled. I won't mention your reason why. I'll let you mention that. But I do love the bobsled. I loved it. and I love the skeleton run. I just get a thrill watching that. And I like a lot of the like the Winter X stuff that they do, like a lot of the snowboarding and the skiing. So that's it for me.
Well, and I'm glad you didn't steal my thunder. I know you like to do that every once in a while. That's just the type of guy you are. I
think I'll be nice today for a change.
Man, that snow must be getting to your brain, being nice to you. You're probably being nice because you sent all the snow my way. You figured, hey, I better be nice to Troy at least for one minute.
I figure you're mad at me.
How could I be mad at you? I'm looking out of my office window watching these wonderful snowflakes fall to the ground and wondering how many crazy people am I going to get behind when I go home? That's what I'm going to look at. But I think if I'm going to do anything this Winter Olympics is I'm actually going to set the DVR if I get the TV schedule for the bobsledding event. And the reason is I love the movie Cool Runnings, and the Jamaican bobsled team has qualified for the Olympics, and I am 100% for the Jamaican bobsled team. I know I'm jumping on a bandwagon with probably a million other people, but I really hope they do well. I think it's a great story to have somebody in a bobsledding competition that they're born and don't even know what snow is. I mean, to me, that is an intriguing story, and I know a lot of other people it's intriguing too, but honestly though, like I said, I don't sit down, I don't make extra time or certain plans to actually sit down and watch the Olympics. With everything else going on in my life, I guess it just doesn't spark a huge interest. I watch the highlights and things of that nature, and I watch the medal count, and I watch the gold medal recaps. And the United States is always near the top. To be honest, though, I like what you said. The women's hockey, to me, is fun to watch because they're playing with pure emotion, and they love to play the game. And I think the men's hockey, with all the professional athletes going into it, it's almost like the Summer Olympics in basketball. There can be some good hockey, and I'm a hockey fan. I'm a huge Penguins fan. But to watch these guys in the Olympics, I don't know. To me, I'd rather watch the NHL than watch Olympic hockey. And, that's just personal preference. But, with that said, Bub, we're just over 2 minutes to go in the show. Anything you want to entice the fans with and maybe touch on our conversation yesterday? I know we rushed to get done, but we had tweeted out about Jerry Kramer and we had set up another time. If you want to fill the fans in as to what we have coming up from now until the end of next week, because we have a great schedule of guest speakers coming on the show. So fill the fans in of the speakers that we have coming up between now and next Friday, because it's going to be great.
Well, first of all, tomorrow we have a special guest on to talk Milwaukee Bucks, and I know you're all thinking Milwaukee Bucks, why talk about them? But Eugene Pitchford, he was the season 3 winner of Time Warner Sports Cable here, local station of Talking the Talk.
90 seconds.
To be on Dennis Krause's The Round Table. And he has his own Blog Talk Radio show as well, co-host, co-producer of Home Court Sports Radio. And he's going to be talking Milwaukee Bucks. He's an educator in Milwaukee as well. And what we're going to have him on talking about is there's a lot of question on, what is the history, what is the future of the Milwaukee Bucks, long-term future? Are they going to be leaving Milwaukee, and then look at
60 seconds.
What's going to happen with this upcoming draft? So he's going to be on to talk about that, and then Jerry Kramer's daughter, she's going to be back on Tuesday as for a half-hour episode. We're going to be talking Jerry Kramer and the NFL Hall of Fame, and then next Friday we have Andrew Varoka, and I'm going to get the confirmation of his last name when we have him on. But he's a creator and writer for Wisconsin Sports Blog, and he's going to be talking Milwaukee Brewers baseball. So that's what we got coming up right now.
Man,
you want to add, since looks like we're running out of time?
Yeah, well, for Wisconsin people, we got Bucks, Brewers, and Packers, all within 7 days. It's going to be awesome,
10
bud.
seconds. seconds.
So with that said, another great show today. Twitter Talk was another success. As always, Evan, my pleasure to do the show with you. For everyone else, have a great night. We'll see you at the next red light, everyone.